Sing me a song of a lass that is gone. Say, could that lass be I? Mary of soul, she sailed on a day over the sea to Skye.
Hey you guys, Owlvine here. So today I wanted to do a little ramble. It's going to be a ramble because I don't have notes. Even though I really should start doing note taking, but we'll just bleh and see what happens. Anyway, what I'm going to be talking about today is creativity and play within magic and its importance, and possibly injecting it a little bit more into your own practice. So what is creativity and play? Let's start there. It's about going in and exploring and making mistakes and making messy. And you know how kids do. They just get in and they just like do stuff. They just allow they don't even allow. It just doesn't happen with children. But for us, we need to allow their frontal lobe cortex thing. I'm good at sciences. This shuts off. The inner critic, the person that says, you shouldn't be doing that, and blah, 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 and like the judge yourself, right? The thinking mind, not there. And they're connecting straight into this place, straight into this creative part of the brain where things just flow. And it doesn't have to be art. I'm not talking about art making necessarily, although art is a wonderful way to express creativity, but it's only one way to express creativity. So just getting into that part of our minds that just flows. Now, I've been exploring this idea of creativity, and I really feel like creativity is an incredibly spiritual thing. I think that when we connect to our creative side of the brain, or the creative part of our brain, it's a channel directly to spirit, or maybe to soul self, or to higher self. There is a higher knowing in that space. There is a knowing that is filtered through us. But this knowing can be stopped when our thinking mind comes on, and all the judgment and like, oh, maybe we shouldn't do this, and maybe we'll look silly, and like, oh, is this even a good idea, and someone else has probably already done it, and blah, 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 all these things. All the things that stop us actually just doing, which is a very important part of our brain to have, because it means that we, fit into society, and we, don't rock too many boats, and, don't end up doing all kinds of like really, really crazy shit. But as a whole in our society, we use this part of our brains far too much. Me included. Me, massively, big time included. So connecting to that part of our brain, shutting off this guy for a while, connects us directly to spirit, right? Now, when I was first starting out on my spiritual path, and I don't know if you were the same, I'd be interested to hear, but am I center? Yeah, okay. When I first started out on my path, there was this real curiosity that I had, and it was like this exploration and like exploring new ideas and trying new things. And when I stepped into this path, I knew from the beginning that I didn't want to step into someone else's religion, right? I'd already had experience with that, and I had looked into other religions, and I was like, look, nobody actually has any idea. This is just an opinion of mine. Nobody has any idea, right, about what spirit is completely, or what God is completely. We all just have our own impressions and our personal experiences. We filter them through our knowing. We go ahead and this is what we believe, right? So I was like, no one really knows. No one can tell me what the absolute truth is, because everyone out there believes that their way is the absolute true and right way. So I was like, well, I don't want to just follow someone else's idea. So when I stepped in, I really decided that I wanted to really, really, really follow my own heart and my own soul calling and figure stuff out for myself. Now, somewhere along the line, and this happens sometimes immediately for people, but somewhere along the line, I started getting caught up in the rules. There are, like with every other group of people, there are so many rules within witchcraft. Well, people like to tell you that there are anyway. This person's got their ideas on like all the rules, and you can't do things that way, and you must do things this way. And this person over here has a completely separate idea of those things, but has their rules and has things that you need to do this way. So I kind of started getting caught up in that, and I realized through actually writing my spiritual art making course, which there will be a link for down below if you're interested in doing that, I spoke about that in my last video if you want more information. So, what was I saying? When I was writing this course on creativity, you know, I realized that I was missing a lot of that in my life, and I was missing it particularly within my spiritual practice. You know, I'd got caught up in all these ideas of what is and isn't okay, and when you do that, by the way, you'll end up not going anywhere because, like I said, everyone has different ideas, you know, and if you listen to two different people, they're going to tell you two different things. So you really, I think, for me, going with my own gut is the way to go. I listen to people, and there are people who have more authority in my life. You know, they have more of a say because I've seen what they're like. I trust their word, so I will listen to them more than I will to, you know, say Joe Blow down the road or whatever. But they still don't get complete say. Like, it's still up to me, and it's still something that I will filter through my own soul space and, you know, figure out, does this really resonate for me? And if not, that's cool. Leave it to the wayside, or have it sitting in the background, whatever, or explore for myself. In fact, it's not even about like thinking about it logically, because we just spoke about this guy here. But really kind of exploring and then seeing what fits and taking what works and leaving the rest, or again, leaving the rest in the bank for some other point maybe. So taking in all those things, but not worrying about what other people think and what the rules are and what the right way is, especially with something like magic. It's the same as spirituality. Like, no one knows all of the things. They know what works for them. Perhaps not even everyone does. A lot of people, I find, just spew out the same stuff as other people. Like, I don't know, you can kind of have a sense about people sometimes, like whether what they're saying is really from a heart space, like from an experience space, or whether it's something, you know, that they've read in the 12 million books and they're just kind of saying, oh, this is the way it is, you know. You know, a lot of those people, if it is just kind of rehashing information that they've read or heard elsewhere, there won't be that why there. Like, they just say the what thing. So they say this is the rule, but there won't really be an explanation as to why. Like, maybe you shouldn't do this thing because of these reasons, you know. There's none of that there. So that's another thing. Hopefully I'm making sense. I know I ramble a lot, but I do know that what I say, you know, makes sense to some people. So anyway, yeah, so just this idea of exploring for ourselves within magic has just been really coming up for me lately. You know, and when I was doing that in the beginning, like, oh, it was so enriching, you know, and I would discover what actually really worked for me. Like, rather than going to anyone else and saying, hey, is this the right thing to do? Going, hey, I'm just going to give this a bash. Also, I think, you know, I've talked before about like getting intuitive feeling about what you're doing magically. So the way I operate a lot of times when I'm casting a spell or doing a ritual is I leave myself open to feeling out what I'm doing. So, you know, when I'm sitting down to do a spell, I might go, all right, what tools do I want to have for this? That, and you know, I've gotten better at this over time. Like, I can do it quite quickly now, but in the beginning it was something that would take a little bit of time. Like, I just kind of think, what things do I want to use, you know, and kind of go from there. And then as I'm actually doing the spell working, like, I might have a set out idea. I obviously definitely have my intention to begin with. That's important. Intention is what, you know, you need. And then from there, kind of leaving it open and allowing soul to come through and to really connect with the spell work that you're doing, rather than just following a formula every time. Now, sometimes it is important to follow those formulas, but that's something you've got to figure out for yourself through this kind of, you know, creative play, you know, feeling, intuition thing. And you get better at that over time as you do it. You come to trust yourself. You know, I think a lot of people, when they start out the craft, you know, of course, they don't have a lot of trust in themselves, you know, to know what to do magically, of course, because, you know, it takes a certain level of, I guess, acquiring knowledge, and then you get to a point, at some point, it's different for everyone, where you're kind of like, you know what, I think I've got the basics, I've got this down, and I can kind of go from there. But don't be afraid to explore right from the beginning. You know, there's a lot of this fear message that happens, you know, be very careful with what you're doing with magic because, you know, all kinds of terrible things can happen. There is an element of truth to that, but for me, what I did to kind of combat fear and to combat, you know, anything really terrible happening was that everything I did was just done through a space of love, you know. So I mean, don't screw around with you know, really hardcore energy right at the beginning, you know, when you're just like, if something happens you have no idea what to do about it, because that's when people get into trouble. But you know, feel free to explore with, I guess if we have to give it a term, the lighter side of things. You know, just not really deep, heavy things necessarily. But feel free to play. I feel like that's really where we learn. And, you know, the last couple of weeks, I've really been getting into this again. Like, I realized my practice had become stagnant. Like, I was just like, ugh. Like, I don't know what to do if I need this thing done in my life. Like, I need to do a love spell, say, but I don't really know what to do. Like, you know, I look up someone else's and kind of go, yeah, I guess I'll just do that. Like, it just becomes stale and ick, you know. When I realized this, I jumped back into my magical practice with this real sense of play. So that freedom, that childlike exuberance of just going, let's sit down, have some kind of parameter, but then just unleash, let loose, and just, you know, see what happens. And my spells have been working, let me tell you, because it's about alignment, you know. Like, I think when you're worried about the rules and like following a specific formula all the time, your head, this guy is here, and you're not really able to like fully connect spiritually or fully like unleash your inner power, or I call it witch power, you know, like that witch power, which is what is like the battery charge for magic to work, like your that power that you have. And when you do allow yourself some freedom in that space, like that's really when you can get excited and that power starts to fizzle and bubble and go, ooh, you know, like that primal part of ourselves that connects into magic and just like, yeah, gets it to work. Now, the way that you practice magic will be different to me, say. The way I practice magic, I just use the word primal, and for me it is a very primal thing, and I do get very primal. You know, I love bones and working with those, and fire is like a massive thing for me, all these sorts of things. So that's what works for me, I've discovered over time. So I go there, man, and like, yeah, just don't be concerned about what anyone else thinks or what anyone else is going to tell you. If you have a drive within you to explore magic of a certain kind, or like move in a certain way, or say certain things, or, you know, use certain kinds of music, or, you know, whatever it is, do that. There is no wrong way. If you want to have Justin Bieber playing in the background while you're doing spell work, that is awesome, and that is your thing, and that is going to work for you if that's truly like, you know, a thing you're wanting to explore. Like, go for it, you know. That's the other thing I want to say. So the thing with play and creativity is that we're not concerned necessarily with the results. Okay, so we're not focused on the results. We are not goal focused necessarily with creativity and play. It's actually opening ourselves up to allow whatever it is that's going to come. What I have noticed from doing this within spiritual and magical practice is it then makes it work anyway, but it's not even something that's on my mind. I'm just like, you know what? I am just going to fold up and get into myself and just see what happens. And great stuff happens. I hope that's made sense. I'm going to have to watch this back and see if, like, I don't know. I'm talking creatively right now. But yeah, this is just something I kind of wanted to put out there. I think perhaps it's something that might help people. You know, if you are feeling stagnant within your practice or your spirituality, mix it up, and don't worry about what anyone else is saying. Like, it's got nothing to do with them. Like, you worry about you, connect to soul space, connect to spirit, or don't connect to spirit. If you're an atheist, connect to whatever it is that, you know, whatever. Like, I don't know the terms. Like, whatever term you use for something maybe a bit more outside of yourself, do that. But what matters is to go within and then without, rather than without to then within to then without, you know. Like, don't worry about what other people are saying. you know, people have very valuable opinions and people have learning, and it's good to listen to them. We take all of that learning and then we do our own thing, because we must explore for ourselves. I feel really passionately about this because I've just seen too many people that are held back in their magical practice because they're so worried about getting it wrong. And yeah, sometimes bad things can happen. It's true. There's a little bit of risk. With everything awesome in life, there is a little bit of risk, right? But I really feel like the dangers are overplayed sometimes. If you put up your protections, right? Put up your protections, do your circle, do whatever it is that you do to protect yourself from, you know, outside forces, negative entities, whatever. And then just act from a space of like love and like wonder and like, ooh, let's get magical, you know, like you're going to be fine. You are going to be fine. So I just wanted to put this out there. Let me know what you think. Do you think that perhaps your spiritual or magical practice could benefit from a little bit of play and a little bit of getting outside of the box and getting creative and seeing what happens? I would love to know. I would love to hear from you. I'm going to jet for now. I've got a few more things that I need to do today, but it's been such a pleasure to be sitting in front of you today, and I'll see you in the next video. Wishing you so much love, as you know, and all of the blessings.